Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker today was born on June 29, 1951 in St. Louis, Missouri. He earned both his Bachelor of Science and Master's degree in Electrical Engineering from Rice University, and in 1976 he earned an MBA from Harvard. I first worked with our speaker when he joined Kleiner, Perkins, Caulfield, and Byers in 1980. And in the time since, he has directed venture capital funding to some of the most successful technology companies around. He is currently listed on Forbes magazine's exclusive Midas list, and is generally regarded as one of the top technology venture capitalists in the world today. Through his lobbying company, TechNet, he has devoted much of his time and money towards impacting legislation beneficial to both the technology and venture capital industries. He joins us here today to talk about an important bill involving global warming that is currently before the California legislature. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. John Doerr.
Okay.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm really scared, and I'm not sure that we're going to make it. By now, most of you have seen Al Gore's famous presentation. Shortly after that, my family and I had some friends over for dinner, and the topic turned to global warming. Everybody agreed that we have a real problem on our hands. Eventually, the conversation came around to my 15-year-old daughter, Mary. She agreed with everything that had been said as well. Suddenly, she looked at me and she said, "Dad, your generation caused this problem, and you had better fix it." I didn't know what to say. My friend Eugene Kleiner once stated that there is a time when panic is the appropriate response, and we have reached that time. We must act, and we must act decisively. I've come here today to talk to you about the Global Warming Solutions Act, or California Proposition AB 32. My intent is to inform you about this bill, present arguments both for and against it, and discuss why I think that the bill should be passed. Before I begin, I'd like to clarify something that was stated in my introduction. It is important for each of you to realize that while I have a well-established background as a venture capitalist, my interest in this subject has more to do with concern for our future than it does promotion of my financial interests. I want to ensure that my children and future generations are able to enjoy the same world that we've enjoyed. And I also feel that by carefully examining both sides of this debate, we can all make an informed decision on voting day. With AB 32, the California legislation intends to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, specifically carbon dioxide, 25% by the year 2020. This initiative targets primary producers of CO2 in an attempt to stop global warming. It intends to effectively reduce these emissions through use of the cap-and-trade system. This involves governmental agencies establishing a maximum level of emissions allowable during a predetermined compliance period. Authorizations to emit the pollutant in the form of emissions allowances or credits are then allocated to the affected companies, and the total number of allowances cannot exceed the established cap. In this method, there are no individual pollution control requirements assigned to the companies. The companies must accurately measure and report their emissions to the California Air Resources Board at the end of each compliance period, and the number of credits must be equal to their emissions. Because the government does not impose specific reductions on each company, cost savings are expected to be significant. Individual companies are free to choose whether and how to reduce their emissions, or they may simply purchase credits from other companies that enjoy a comparative advantage in emissions-reducing technology. This allows the polluters to adjust their compliance strategies to meet their individual economic situations. To be fair, I must tell you that while the intent of this bill is noble, there are many that vehemently oppose it. This debate centers largely on differing opinions on economic policy and governmental control. Critics of the bill feel that the governmental intervention will create hardships for the state by driving businesses and therefore jobs out of California. The fear is that many of these companies will relocate to localities that do not have the same restrictions. The critics also assert that this measure would trigger significant increases in both business and consumer costs for fuel and electricity. In addition, many opponents also state that this bill will do next to nothing to lower emissions on a global scale as long as China and India are allowed to continue their skyrocketing emissions growth. Proponents of the bill counter these assertions by saying that AB 32 will actually help local economies through the inevitable birth of new industries that center around emissions-reducing technology. In California, a group called the Climate Action Team determined that global warming reduction will increase income by more than $4 billion while adding 83,000 new jobs. In addition, affected companies would have increased purchasing power once they decrease their energy costs and reduce their dependence upon fossil fuels. Proponents believe that the notion that businesses will leave the state is flawed because all businesses that supply to California will be affected, not just those that are based in the state. In conclusion, it remains difficult for the average person to judge the validity of either argument. This debate centers largely on economics. Upon close examination, both sides of this debate stand to gain or lose an enormous amount of money depending upon which of these theories prevails. Major polluters generally place much more value on profits and critical public service than clean air. No person would think that pollution is bad, but there are many ideas on just how bad it is. These major polluters consider their emissions a necessary evil to accomplishing their goals. Even the general public has a threshold for pollution, albeit a lower one, that's directly related to the cost of the products that they must use. After all, would you approve emissions-reducing actions that would increase your utility bills tenfold? The problem is in deciding why or who should decide how much pollution is acceptable. In this case, the market-based system provides a level of security through certain GHG emissions targets while promoting new and more innovative technology through privatization. It's very likely that this plan will succeed following the path of the sulfur dioxide reduction programs that were present in the 1990s. In my opinion, California's success will pave the way for a national initiative on CO2 emissions reduction, which could result in additional pressure being placed on China to follow suit. Thank you for your time.